Sean Campus. Welcome to another Sunday Strength. I hope you guys are enjoying your week. You've enjoyed your week. Um, Today, we're going to talk about a marriage lie that is costing you growth and connection. And so, this is a big deal because you probably don't even know about this lie. Well, you'll know it after I say it, but you won't realize that it's a lie. But it's going to be super helpful. So, in our relationships, the thing that we often think, especially when we're struggling, is that our partner cannot come to us and talk to us about who we're being, or what we're not for them. And often, a lot of times, the reason that happens is because um, we're not getting along, number one. And then number two, the approach that our partners take a lot of times is off putting, hard to accept, hard to welcome, hard to hear. Um, it's everything that doesn't feel good. And for some of us, I think a lot of times there's going to be some kind of hook from your previous experiences, to where like you were made fun of, or somehow you weren't good enough, right? And so there's a pile of things going on, and your partner or the person that you're loving but you're at battles with tells you that you're not good enough, or that things aren't good enough for them, that are coming from you. And so it's a really hard thing. And what we do with that situation in our relationships a lot of times is the person who's receiving that information puts everything aside and gets super stubborn and stone hearted and says something like, I'm never going to change. I'm going to be who I am. Either you love me the way I am or you don't. Right. In fact, that's always been a common thing where people say, like, I am who I am, and I'm never going to change. Um, and I think that that's dangerous for our relationships. And so there's two things that I think ends up happening. One is a disconnect ends up happening. We perpetuate the disconnect that probably is already there. And then two is we limit ourselves, from being able to grow. Okay. And so the lie that's being told is the idea that I don't need to change. I'm never going to change. And change isn't necessary. And you have to love me the way that I am. Right. That's the lie. And the issue with that is that in marriages or in relationships, things are not set in stone, and we can't set them in stone and be successful. Right. So you can't say, this is my personality, this is who you married, this is who I'm going to be. The truth is we should all be getting better or working towards that. And when we combine our lives, the truth is that we have work to do to be able to combine our lives and build something together. What things do we build and we're not actually adding on to them or taking things away to make it, a better structure? That just doesn't happen. And so if you think about your relationship more in terms of building, instead of this is who I am and this is who I'm staying, this is who I've always been, you're not going to change me. If you have that lie inside of your life or inside of your mind or inside of your heart, then you're going to create a struggle in your relationship. Okay. And so it has to change over. And I think the starting point that we'll go with today about how to change it over is, one is, I want to acknowledge, I want to go back to the idea that sometimes, our relationships, one of us doesn't say the right things in the right way that makes another person feel like they want to change. I will tell you, if you're on the receiving end of that scenario, how a person says things to you doesn't change your approach to who you're trying to be in life. And it's really important that you're not doing the wrong battle, right? So if you stay who you are and don't challenge yourself to get better because somebody else is saying those things, then it makes it really tough for you to grow as a person. And I always tell people, it's a little bit of a joke, but I think it's partly a good way to approach our relationships. Even if this one doesn't work, you want to be good enough for the next one, right? And so your job is just to keep getting better at being a better person, being better in this relationship, being better as far as negotiating challenging scenarios. And then everything kind of changes for you as far as growth goes. And so the more that we can look at it as, look, no matter how my partner says things, I'm going to find a way to hear the parts that really affect me and the parts that are affecting my relationship, right? So what can I pick out of that scenario, And so your partner says something about your personality that isn't useful for the relationship. And no matter how they say it, they might say it in an insulting way. No matter how they say it, is there room for you to grow? And to me, this is one of the hardest things, and there will be other ones because we're going to go over some more in the weeks to follow. But this is one of the hardest things to think about. Somebody's being rude to me, and it's not just somebody. Like we're not talking about the person on the street. We're talking about somebody who's living with you, who you were in love with, who you can build love with, who you're living in life with, is saying something out of emotions towards you that they're struggling with, right? And so our object here, or our goal in our minds, is to be able to find those things, to look for the pieces in those scenarios that we can pick out, And so if your partner insults you and says like, man, you're the worst cook ever, right? And you think like, man, that person just insulted me about the way that I cook, right? Well, maybe there is something about that. And I use cooking because I think that's an easy one for us to go with. I don't want to overthink that scenario, but the idea is that, can I find out like what it is? Well, do I put too much salt in the food? Do I not follow recipes very well? Do I start out following recipe and kind of go off on my own at the end? Like what is it? Do I need recipes? And right? Do I need more influence? So the more that we focus on being able to build that, that's a big deal. Okay. Now, there are situations, and I know this is going to come up because I work with people in relationships all the time. So the idea that, well, what about the person who's always critical and I can't do anything right? Should I be looking at what they're saying? To me, it's worth being able to pull out what somebody's saying without realizing that without you thinking that you're not good enough, right? So just because I'm faulty in some areas doesn't mean I'm not good enough and I'm not lovable. So that's an important distinction to make whenever we're undoing this lie that says I am who I am and I'm not going to change, or I don't need to change. You're still lovable in your imperfect state, and there's still growth opportunities. So both are true. Like where you're at, you're lovable, and there's more that you can be doing in your relationship to get better. And there's more that you can be doing to give yourself more in your relationship and in your life. So we need to be able to adjust on both of those. I don't want somebody coming in and saying like, well, my partner said that I'm not this and this, so I'm moving all these ways to try to become those things. That's not the goal. The goal is, I hear that there's a possibility, and these are things that grow me. So I'm going to find the things that grow me. I'm not going to find the things that make me feel bad about myself, right? So if the person says you're not a good cook, and they say it in the worst way possible, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to stop cooking. I'm not a very good cook. I can't ever be a good cook, right? No, I have the ability to find a way to get better at that, and I'm going to work at getting better at that, right? The mind shift changes everything there, right? So can we do that? The more that we can shift our mind and stop telling this lie to ourselves that we're stuck inside of this box of who we were when we came into the relationship, and we start realizing actually the relationship requires us to become more than what we were, right, as individuals, and will give us so much more than we ever had as individuals. So the more that we can stop telling ourselves that lie and realize what's at stake here, we get to listen differently, right? So I'm not advocating for the negative approach that comes to us. I do know when things get heated, things are not said the right way or in a useful way. But I do think we can move in a different direction by saying, look, I'm going to find all the things that I need to work on. And if I could focus there on those things when my partner is hurt, I don't have to take those things personal. I can say, you know what, I'm not very good at communicating, or I'm not very good at initiating connection, or whatever those scenarios are. I don't create enough security inside of the home, or I'm not loving enough. I'm not doing enough hugs or putting up enough deposits in my relationship, right? And where can I work? And so don't let the idea that your partner is upset about something stop you from being more and creating more in your life and in your relationship. And if you're able to focus on that and change that around to where you can say, look, I'm going to find the things that will make me better. And ultimately, you grow me and the connection in the relationship, everything changes. The big picture, if we were to zoom out, is that I have a belief, and not only a belief, I really think that it's true, is that love is something that creates after itself. And so if you're willing to not go back and forth about, well, you insulted me, so here's your insult back, right? If you're willing to do that and instead focus on the things that you can do to create a different kind of relationship, now we have a totally different kind of culture and environment in our relationship. And it gives us a chance to do a little bit more than what we're doing as far as our confrontations and challenges in our relationship. All right, you guys, I hope this was helpful. We'll talk to you soon. Enjoy your week.